Okay, so today we're going to be talking about how to make your essays more creative. And you might think that this is a bad idea. If you think of sort of your junior school experience, year 7, 8, 9, maybe even year 10, your teachers probably said things like avoid personal pronouns I, you and we, which still holds true. But what we're trying to do now is that you're trying to inject creativity back into your writing. So the way that you do this is by the way that you structure your sentences. So we're going to focus specifically on a small little option, but you'll see how I can give you options for creativity and ways that you can actually interact better with your audience and kind of insert character, insight and creativity back into essay writing, which by all accounts appears to be a very formal, boring and uninteresting thing to do. Alright, so basically we're talking about nouns. So nouns are things, objects, places. I should probably not have worked that out beforehand rather than just making it up off the top of my head. But nouns are the things that you're talking about. So it might be characters in the book, places, setting, whatever it is. And what we're going to do is we're going to focus on expanding a noun and creating what's called a nominal group, which basically just means instead of just being a noun by itself, like Mr. Colbert or Stephen, we expand it and say the tall, aggressively ugly, long-nosed Stephen. So we expand it into a nominal group, and there are three core ways that you can do this. The first one is what we call pre-modifying the noun, which is just you add words before the noun, like I just did there, or you can post-modify the noun, which is adding information after the fact. So Stephen Colbert, the least likely to succeed, teacher, comma, blah, 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 blah. And another important thing you need to know is the third option, which is what we call a relative or dependent clause. But basically it's just a portion of a section that doesn't stand by itself. So for example, when we said Stephen, the least likely to succeed, that doesn't stand alone as a sentence. It doesn't have a subject, a verb, or an object. So it's kind of like a portion of a sentence, and it's relative in the sense that it's relative to the noun. The reason that we do all of these three things, the nominal group things, pre, post and relative clauses, is because it's a way for you to inject your personality, your creativity into it, and also demonstrate the things that you know that other students that you may be competing against, for whatever that means, may not. So for example, a C-level student, let's say 70%, 50%, 60% would say Macbeth. A slightly better one might say a string of adjectives followed by Macbeth, and a really top level student would add 3 pre-modifications, adjectives to the noun of Macbeth, but what they might actually do is quote the text. So rather than just being their own personal thoughts, they might actually be embedding parts of quotes to sort of put that into context. So you might say something like the valiant dead butcher Macbeth. So those are both quotes from the play, and this is showing off not only your knowledge of the text, but also injecting a little bit of creativity into your essay writing and making it a bit more personal as well. So to do this really well, you just have to think about the main characters that you're going to be talking about in an essay. Think of some adjectives or some quotes that you can use to pre, post, or add a relative clause to, and just practice writing those out and thinking of ways that they work best. And then that gives you flexibility to, especially the relative clause, because you can really flip sentences around and put them into strange combinations and sort of orderings, and that's where the creativity comes in. So you might think, am I just going to do this as a straight sentence, or am I going to add in multiple clauses? Am I going to flip them around? Am I going to talk about the object before the subject? How am I going to mix it up? And that's how you make your writing a little bit more interesting, a little bit less linear, less of a straight line. So try it out, pick some characters, and have some set phrases ready to go for your essay writing on the text that you've got.